My name is Janelle Price. I'm 34 years old, I'm a respiratory therapist, and the day my son's doctor asked who signed his consent form was the day I learned someone can steal your identity without touching your wallet, just by touching your child's paperwork. It started with a call from the school nurse at 10:22 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was in the middle of a shift change report when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it because hospitals train you to prioritize emergencies that are in front of you. But I saw the caller ID, Oak Ridge Elementary, and my whole body tightened. "Ms. Price," the nurse said when I answered. "This is Nurse Harlow. Your son Jonah had an episode during recess. He's breathing okay now, but we'd like you to pick him up. He's complaining of chest tightness." Chest tightness in a 9-year-old is a sentence that erases everything else. I told my supervisor I had to go, grabbed my bag, and drove to the school with my mind running through worst-case scenarios like it was a job requirement. Jonah has asthma, not the mild inhaler once-in-a-while kind. The kind that makes you count his breaths when he sleeps and keep rescue meds in 3 places like your life depends on redundancy. We'd managed it well for years. Specialist visits, action plan, school forms, triggers tracked in my notes app. But every parent of an asthmatic kid knows there's a thin line between fine and ER, and that line can disappear fast. I picked him up, got him home, gave him his rescue inhaler and a nebulizer treatment, and watched his shoulders finally drop. He looked exhausted, embarrassed, and small in a way that made my throat tighten. "Do we have to go to the doctor?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said. "Not because you're in trouble, because I need someone to listen to your lungs." He nodded, trusting me the way kids do when they're scared, and you're the only adult who feels steady. Our pediatric pulmonologist, Dr. Sato, had a same-day slot that afternoon. I got Jonah in the car, brought his medication list, and drove to the clinic with that dull panic humming under my ribs. It was one of those specialty practices attached to a larger medical center. Glass doors, kids' drawings taped to walls, the faint smell of sanitizer and fruit snacks. At check-in, the receptionist asked for Jonah's date of birth and my ID standard. I handed it over, answered the usual questions, and we were taken back to an exam room. Dr. Sato came in quickly, listened to Jonah's lungs, asked about triggers, adjusted his controller dose, and ordered a spirometry test. All normal. Then he paused, tablet in hand, and said, "Before we do the steroid injection today, I need to confirm consent." I nodded automatically. "Of course." He tapped the screen, frowning slightly. Then he looked up at me. "Can I ask," he said, careful, "who signed Jonah's consent form last week?" I blinked. "What consent form?" He held the tablet closer to himself, then turned it slightly toward me. "It's for his updated asthma action plan and permission for the school to administer medication," he said. "We have a signature on file dated last Thursday." I stared at the screen, confused. "Last Thursday I was at work," I said. "Jonah was with my sister after school, but I signed his action plan at the beginning of the semester." Dr. Sato's eyes stayed on mine. "This was a new form. It includes permission for a new medication change and a procedure authorization." My stomach tightened. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "I would remember signing something like that." He hesitated like he was deciding whether to push. Then he said, "Ms. Price, the signature on file is not consistent with your previous signatures." I felt my skin go cold. "Show me," I said. He turned the tablet toward me fully. My name was printed in the parent/guardian field, Janelle Price, and below it, the signature. It looked like my name. But it wasn't my handwriting. The J was wrong, too tall, too rounded. The Price slanted the opposite direction. My signature has a sharp hook on the P because I learned cursive from a teacher who believed in aggressive loops. This signature had soft curves like someone had practiced mine from memory. Good enough to fool an office, not good enough to fool me. My mouth went dry. "I didn't sign that," I said slowly. Dr. Sato's expression tightened. That's what I needed to clarify. I stared at the tablet until my vision blurred. "Who brought him?" I asked. Dr. Sato tapped again. The note says, "Mother signed in office." In office. That's when a new kind of fear slid under my panic. Not medical fear, administrative fear, the kind that ruins lives quietly. Because if someone signed medical consent in my name, they could authorize procedures, receive information, change pharmacies, change contacts, change everything. And the scariest part was that someone had done it through Jonah. Through my kid's appointment. My voice came out thin. Who checked him in? Dr. Sato shook his head. I don't know, but we can pull the front desk notes and camera if needed. My heart pounded. I forced myself to think clearly. Last Thursday, Jonah had therapy at 4 o'clock, I said aloud, reconstructing. Then my sister picked him up. I was at the hospital until 7. My sister's name is Lacey. She's 27, warm, chaotic, and the only person besides me I trusted with Jonah in emergencies. She had keys to my house. She was listed on Jonah's school pickup list. She had helped me more than anyone since Jonah's dad drifted out of the picture. But last Thursday, she'd also texted me something odd. Can you send me Jonah's insurance card again? The clinic is asking. I had sent it without thinking. I swallowed hard and asked Dr. Sato, can you tell me which clinic location this signature was captured at? He scrolled. Our satellite office on Eastbrook. Eastbrook. My stomach dropped. That wasn't even the office we usually used. I stared at Jonah sitting on the exam table, swinging his legs, watching me carefully. Jonah, I said softly, did you go to Dr. Sato's office last week? He frowned. No. Did you go to any doctor last week? He hesitated. A lady asked me questions at school. My blood went cold. What lady? I asked. He shrugged. She had a badge and a clipboard. She asked about my inhaler and if I feel safe at home. My throat tightened. That wasn't a doctor. That sounded like someone from the county, a school social worker, a child welfare screener. Dr. Sato watched me, and I could see him start connecting dots, too. Ms. Price, he said quietly, has anyone made a report about your son's care? My stomach turned. No, not that I know of. Jonah's voice was small. Am I in trouble? No, I said immediately, forcing warmth into my voice. You're not in trouble. But inside, my mind was sprinting. Someone had signed consent in my name. Someone had possibly triggered a welfare check at school. Someone had switched our clinic location to Eastbrook. Someone had access to Jonah's information. There was one person who could do all of that without hacking anything. A family member. Someone on the pickup list. Someone who knew our routines. Someone who had my insurance info because I sent it. Someone who could walk into a clinic and say, I'm his mom, and be believed long enough to sign. I stood up, hands shaking, and said to Dr. Sato, I need to step out and make a call. He nodded instantly. I'm going to have my office manager pull the records. And Ms. Price, his voice softened. You're doing the right thing asking questions. I stepped into the hallway, pulled my phone out, and called Lacey. She answered on the second ring, cheerful. Hey, how's Jonah? Did you take Jonah to a clinic last Thursday? I asked. Silence. Not confusion. Not, what are you talking about? Silence. Knowing silence. Then she laughed softly like I was being dramatic. No. Lacey, I said, voice low, I'm at Dr. Sato's office right now. There's a consent form signed in my name last Thursday at Eastbrook. The signature isn't mine. Another pause. Then she said, too quickly, that's weird. Did you sign something for Jonah last week? I asked. She exhaled. Okay, don't freak out. My blood went cold. Did you? She lowered her voice. Jonah was wheezing. I got scared. I took him to urgent care, but they needed consent because they wanted to give him something. I didn't want to bother you at work. Urgent care. Eastbrook. Consent. My stomach dropped through the floor. You signed my name, I said. I was his guardian, she snapped defensively. I'm listed on his stuff, and you were unreachable. I was reachable, I said. You could have called my unit. You could have called my supervisor. You could have called the hospital operator. You forged my signature. It was an emergency, she said, voice sharper now, and you always act like you're the only one who can handle anything. That sentence lit something in me, because it wasn't about Jonah's breathing, it was about control. Why did someone interview Jonah at school? I asked suddenly. Silence again. Then softly, what? A lady with a badge asked him if he feels safe at home, I said. Why? Lacey's voice went thin. I don't know. But she did. I could hear it in the way her words stumbled. Lacey, I said, what did you do? She swallowed audibly. I told someone I was worried. Worried. I told the nurse at urgent care that you sometimes miss his doses, she rushed out, like confession would make it less bad. Because you work nights and you're exhausted and my vision tunneled. You told medical staff I neglect my child, I said. No, I said you're overwhelmed, she insisted. And they were asking questions and I panicked and you signed my name on a medical consent form, I said, voice shaking with rage now. Do you understand what you did? You created a record that I authorized care I didn't authorize, and you fed a narrative to professionals that could trigger CPS. Lacey's voice rose. I was trying to help Jonah. You were trying to help yourself feel important, I snapped, and then I hated myself for how accurate it sounded. She went quiet, then said, smaller, you think you're better than me. There it was. Not Jonah. Not safety. Sibling resentment disguised as concern. Lacey, I said, forcing calm back into my voice because I needed to finish this. You are not allowed to take Jonah to any medical appointment again. You are not allowed to sign anything for him. You are not allowed to speak to his school on my behalf. You can't. I can, I cut in, and I will. Then I hung up before she could cry and turn the story. I went back into the exam room with my hands steady again, because in my world, once something becomes procedural, I can move. Doctor. Sato's office manager arrived with a folder and a tight expression. She showed me the urgent care record. Jonah had been seen, given a nebulizer treatment, and prescribed a medication adjustment. The consent form was scanned with the forged signature. But there was more. A note in the record. Aunt reports caregiver non-compliance, requests guidance, concerned about home stability. Home stability. Those words are landmines. The manager said, because of that note, the clinic made a mandatory report for follow-up. A school liaison did an intake screening. My stomach dropped, even though I already knew. So CPS? I whispered. Not a full investigation yet, she said carefully. Just a screening. Just a screening. Like it was nothing. Like the system doesn't ruin families with just paperwork. I took a breath and did what my job trained me to do. Document, correct, protect. I asked for copies of everything. I wrote a statement that I did not sign the consent. I provided proof of my work schedule that day. I requested a correction in Jonah's chart noting that the aunt was not authorized to sign medical consents. I asked them to update Jonah's emergency contacts and remove my sister's access. Dr. Sato watched all of it quietly, then said, I'm also going to write a note that you are engaged in care and that Jonah's management plan is consistent. That mattered. Because in systems like this, whoever writes first often controls the first narrative, and my sister had written first. I left the clinic with Jonah and stopped at the school on the way home. I met with the principal and the nurse and asked for a copy of the interview note. They couldn't give me everything, but they confirmed someone had come in to do a wellness check based on a medical referral. I looked them both in the eye and said, my sister is not authorized to make medical decisions or reports on my behalf. If she contacts you, you call me immediately. They nodded, serious now. They'd seen family drama before. They knew it could turn ugly fast. That night, after Jonah was asleep, I filed a report with the clinic's compliance office and spoke to the county intake worker who had done the screening. I explained calmly, with dates and documentation, that the report originated from a non-guardian relative who forged consent and misrepresented care. I offered my medication logs, pharmacy records, appointment history, and Dr. Sato's notes. The intake worker's voice softened. Ms. Price, she said, thank you for being proactive. Based on what you've provided, we're closing this as unfounded and documenting the source discrepancy. Unfounded. I exhaled for the first time in hours, but the betrayal didn't stop stinging just because the case closed. The next morning, Lacey came to my door crying. She wasn't ugly crying. She was the kind of crying that still lets you look pretty, the kind designed to trigger forgiveness. "I didn't mean it like that," she said. "I was scared." I didn't invite her in. "I believe you were scared," I said. "And I believe you liked having a file where professionals listened to you like you were the responsible one." Her face tightened. "That's not fair." "I don't care about fair," I said quietly. "I care about my child." She tried to step closer. I stepped back. "You forged my name," I said. "You endangered my custody. You don't get to fix that with tears." Her mouth trembled. "So what now?" "Now you are not in our medical life," I said. "And you are not on his pickup list until a long time passes and I decide otherwise." She stared at me like I had slapped her. Then she whispered, "Mom will hate you for this." And there it was. The last card. Family pressure. I looked at her and said, "Let her." Then I closed the door. Over the next weeks, I hardened my life the way you do after someone proves they can use systems against you. Passwords added to school pickups, written-only communication through email, medical portals locked down with extra authentication, a binder of Jonah's care records updated like a defense file, not because I wanted to live paranoid, but because I refused to be surprised again. Jonah recovered quickly. Kids do. He stopped wheezing, went back to school, asked for pizza on Friday like nothing had happened. But once, while I was packing his backpack, he said, "Aunt Lacey said you forget my medicine." My hands went still. "What did you say?" I asked gently. "I said you don't forget," he said, small and certain, "because you always ask me." I swallowed hard. "Thank you," I whispered and kissed his forehead. Not because he fixed it, because he reminded me that children know who shows up. That's what my sister didn't understand. She thought she could become the hero by filing concern. But love isn't concern. Love is consistency. Love is the boring daily work that doesn't create dramatic paperwork. The doctor asked who signed the consent form. Then I saw my name in different handwriting, and in that moment, the scariest part wasn't the forged signature. It was how easy it was for one person to borrow my identity long enough to make professionals question me. Now I don't confuse family with access. Family can love you and still harm you. Access is earned. And after what she did, my sister lost hers.